Here's a situation most cat owners know all too well. You've done the research. You've read about kidney disease, chronic dehydration, the hidden cost of a lifetime on dry kibble. You've decided, with genuine conviction, that your cat is switching to wet food. Starting today. You open the can. You place the bowl down with quiet confidence. Your cat walks over, sniffs it, and looks up at you with an expression that says, "What is this, and why would you think I'd eat it?" Bowl untouched. Cat unimpressed. You, standing in the kitchen holding an empty can, wondering if your cat is simply broken. They're not broken. But here's the thing. The way most owners attempt this switch is almost perfectly designed to fail. And the reason isn't the food. It's the approach. Here's what most cat owners don't realize. Switching a cat from dry to wet food isn't a food problem. It's a psychology problem. Cats have a deeply wired resistance to new foods, a survival mechanism called food neophobia that made their ancestors suspicious of unfamiliar sources. The cat who rejects wet food isn't being difficult. They're being exactly what evolution made them. Once you understand that, the whole strategy changes. 1. Why your cat refuses, and what's actually happening. Let's start with the biology because this is where it gets really interesting. Cats who have been fed dry food their entire lives develop what researchers call a texture imprint. The crunch, the smell, the specific mouthfeel of kibble becomes the neurological template for what food is supposed to be. Wet food doesn't match that template. And to a cat's conservative eating instincts, food that doesn't match the template is food that might not be safe. This isn't stubbornness. This is a nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Add to that the scent difference. Dry food has a concentrated, shelf-stable aroma that cats become accustomed to over months and years. Wet food smells different, more animal, more complex, but also more unfamiliar. And for a cat whose primary food evaluation tool is their nose, unfamiliar scent means proceed with caution. Now here's what most owners do. They remove the dry food. They place wet food in its spot. They wait for hunger to do the work. And this is exactly wrong. A cat in a state of hunger and stress, confronted with unfamiliar food and no safe option, does not explore. They refuse. They wait. Some cats will go without eating for days rather than accept food their instincts flag as suspicious. And in cats, prolonged food refusal can trigger hepatic lipidosis, fatty liver disease, within 48 to 72 hours. This is not a minor risk. The switch must be gradual, unhurried, designed around your cat's psychology, not your timeline. 2. The transition method that actually works. Here's the step-by-step approach, and the reason each step works matters as much as the steps themselves. Step 1. Start with smell, not taste. Week 1. Don't put wet food in the bowl yet. Place a small amount beside the dry food bowl, not in it, for the first several days. Let your cat investigate it on their own terms. Sniff it, ignore it, walk away. That's fine. That's the process. You're not trying to get them to eat it yet. You are trying to get their nervous system to file it under familiar rather than unknown. Repeated, low-pressure exposure to a new scent is the first step to making it feel safe. Step 2. Mix, starting at 5%. Week 2. Once your cat is no longer treating the wet food as a suspicious foreign object, once they're sniffing it without backing away, begin mixing a tiny amount into their dry food. 5% wet to 95% dry, so small it barely registers. The goal here is association. The familiar crunch of kibble carries the new scent into a context the cat already trusts. Their nervous system begins to connect the two. Wet food starts to carry the same safe tag that dry food already holds. Step 3. Increase slowly. Weeks 3 and 4. Every 4 to 5 days, shift the ratio slightly. 5% becomes 10. 10 becomes 20. 20 becomes 30. Never jump more than 10% at a time. Never rush because it seems to be going well. The nervous system needs repetition to build new patterns, and one bad meal that triggers refusal can set the whole process back significantly. Warm the wet food slightly before serving. Not hot, lukewarm. Heat activates the aroma compounds in wet food dramatically. A warmed bowl smells richer, more complex, more like prey. It is consistently more appealing to cats making this transition than cold food straight from the tin. Step 4. Toppers as bridges. If your cat stalls at any point, if they start picking around the wet food or refusing the mixed bowl, deploy a topper. A teaspoon of tuna water. A crumble of freeze-dried chicken on the surface. A light drizzle of warm bone broth. These are not permanent additions. They are scent bridges, familiar, powerful aromas that carry the wet food past the cat's suspicion threshold long enough for acceptance to form. Once the cat is eating consistently, reduce the topper gradually until it's no longer needed. 3. What to do when it stalls. Almost nobody talks about this, and every transition stalls at some point. Your cat was doing well, eating the mixed bowl reliably. And then one day, refusal. Backs away. Walks off.
Done.
Here's what most owners do wrong. They panic, remove the wet food, and go back to pure dry. This resets weeks of progress and confirms to the cat's nervous system that refusal produces results. Instead, go back one step. If you were at 50% mix, go back to 30. Stabilize there for a week. Then move forward again more slowly. Also consider the bowl. Cats can be sensitive to the depth and material of their dishes. Wide, shallow ceramic or stainless bowls are best for wet food. They don't concentrate smell in a way that triggers whisker discomfort, and they're easier to eat from without the food sliding away from the edges. And consider timing. Wet food offered after play, when the hunt-catch-kill cycle has been activated, is accepted far more readily than wet food offered cold to a resting cat. Time your transition meals immediately after a play session, and watch the acceptance rate improve. Actionable takeaways. Start tonight, not with the food, but with placement. Open a small amount of wet food and set it beside the dry bowl. Just beside it. Let your cat meet it on their own terms. Buy 1 or 2 varieties of wet food to start, different textures, different proteins. Pâté is often easier for first-time wet food eaters than chunks or gravy. Find what your cat's nose responds to before committing to a brand. Keep a simple schedule. Same transition ratio for 4 to 5 days before increasing. Same warm temperature every time. Same timing after play when possible. And be patient. Some cats transition in 3 weeks. Some take 3 months. Neither is failure. The destination is the same: a cat eating a moisture-rich diet that supports their kidneys, their digestion, and their long-term health. The timeline is irrelevant compared to that outcome. Here's the truth underneath all of this. Your cat is not rejecting wet food because they don't deserve better nutrition. They're rejecting it because their nervous system was built for caution, because in the wild, a cat who ate unfamiliar food without hesitation was a cat who didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. That caution is not your enemy. It is the thing you're working with, patiently, step by step, until the unfamiliar becomes familiar. Until the wet food bowl stops being a question and starts being something they walk toward with their tail up. That moment, the first time your cat eats wet food without hesitation, without inspection, without a single suspicious glance at you, is not a small victory. It is the result of understanding your cat well enough to meet them exactly where they are. And now you know exactly how to get there. Is your cat on dry food right now, and have you tried switching before? Tell me what happened in the comments, and if you've successfully made this transition. Drop your best tip below. Someone reading this needs exactly what you figured out. If you made it this far, you understand something most people never will. Cats aren't just pets. They're complex, emotional, intelligent beings. Tap the video on your screen to keep learning the secret language of cats. And subscribe to Cat Class, because understanding your cat changes everything.